Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show, an amazing video podcast with sports stars, entertainment celebrities, and other great guests, combining one host who has no legs, one host who lives in Duluth, Minnesota, and another host who seems to never be on the show. But now, on to the show with Troy, Dave, and maybe even Will.
Well. It's great to see everybody on this Friday, but depending if you're watching this after we have taped this. But we are live right now again, coming to you from the home offices in Bristol, Connecticut. And our guest tonight should know Bristol because he worked here a long time. But before we bring our guest in, of course, let me bring in my co-host up in Duluth, Minnesota, Troy Geary. Troy, what's going on up in Duluth? You said a little cold today?
Yeah, it goes from 70 to 40, but hopefully the Timberwolves can win tonight, and we'll warm things up here in Minnesota.
Yeah, that would be exciting. I haven't hold out hope. It's going to be a tough one, but we'll get to that. Talk a little chit chat about those Minnesota Timberwolves. But let me bring in our guest tonight. I am so excited to have the General joining us on Geary, Stein, and Stevens. Bob Ley is a wonderful human being, but was also at SportsCenter from 1979 to 2019. So 40 years, Bob. And for those people that may not remember what your career was, I guess we should let them see what you did back in the day. Of course, Bob was legendary as he started out, I think, 3 days after SportsCenter. Look at that young face. Look at that kid right there.
I was 14.
In those ugly coats. There is Dick Vitale with a little bit of hair when Bob was hosting our basketball.
Those pants, by the way.
Look at the polyester.
So many times with Chris Berman along the way, and of course many iconic moments with Bob on the set with Leonard Lee and all those the legendary names again. 1979, George Grand, and all the historic moments that you were a part of, and we'll get to a lot of those tonight. But most known for as being a journalist, and I don't think there's a lot of that at ESPN or in sports overall these days. But Bob Ley taking some time to join us tonight on the show, and Bob, I mean, I can't believe when I was looking things up, it's been 5 years since you sort of officially retired from ESPN.
Yeah, coming up on 5 years. Yeah. And that's 6 years since I took my sabbatical. Miss the people. I love that shot there. Miss the people. Is that Mark Gross photo?
Yeah, floating in the background. There you go.
Remember that young fellow? He ended up interviewing me that day. He's an aspiring sportscaster. He's living in New Jersey. 5 years, and miss the people, obviously, and we from time to time gather at weddings and unfortunately funerals and whatnot and celebrations of life, but we move on.
And there's been too many of those recently, but when people found out you were going to be on the show, they literally came out of the woodwork. And one gentleman actually reached out to me today, and as much as we know he doesn't like to do phones and computers and stuff, I have a special message from an old buddy.
Bob, this episode of This Is Your Life continues with Dave Cat Stevens. You know, when we have an old-time ESPN reunion, nothing could be more special. You and I, my goodness, the summer of '69, my friend. It'll get worse, because next year will be the summer of '70. But first things first, a surprise hello, happy Memorial Day to everybody, and love when we can all get together, even if it's by 21st century BS. And you know what I mean.
That last shot there is from the service awards, where each were honored for our 40 years of service to Disney. I'm going to see Boomer. We get together, a bunch of us old timers, out in Litchfield County, in a nice little restaurant every August, and we set the date a year in advance. Of course, with Boomer's schedule, you have to, right? But we get Boomer out there, you get Steve Anderson. Folks may not know these people, but they're vital cogs in the success of ESPN. Chip Dean, Vince Doria, and I'm looking forward to seeing Chris in a couple of months.
And Bob, you and I were discussing earlier, and I don't think it's breaking news, but my gosh, you had a heck of a battle, and I'm proud to say that you won. Talk about the health scare that you had and what you went through, and how that changed your life.
Well, I'm hardly alone in having to deal with issues like that. But over the last year, we had to deal with a case of lung cancer. We kicked its ass. It was detected early by chance. If I can leave anybody with any message to help themselves, take agency for yourself with your health. Get every test you can, because it was a heart imaging test that found the tumor in my lung. Thank God I was asymptomatic. But surgery, chemo, and when the chemo ended, Dave, around Christmas, the question in my mind was, what's coming back first, my hair or the Mets? My hair is a very Mets question and a very Mets answer. The hair is pretty much back where it was. The Mets are scuffling through the National League. Yeah, it was without my family and friends and the teams of doctors, both at St. Peter's in Albany and at Dana-Farber in Boston. Got a great outcome. We have a great prognosis. We're continuing with aftercare, but things look great. But it's, there are a lot of people who are quietly going through similar things. And, when you're getting chemo and you sit there and you look around the room and you see people in various stages of their journey through chemo, it's very sobering and brings a lot of things home. And so, here we are. We're healthy. We have good tests, good results. We're moving forward.
You look absolutely fantastic. I think younger than ever. So
I used to get a lot of crap from people. And get rid of all right. Well, the chemo took the beard. And I did shave. I had about a 4-day growth about an hour and a half ago. I did shave just for you guys.
Bob, ESPN was at the forefront of this sports media debate, evolution that we got going on. But I want to ask you about one of the first ones, the sports reporters. Compared to now, what we got on TV, I mean, do you really like all the screaming and yelling? And what is the future of sports journalism?
Well, if you're asking me what my opinion of what I'm seeing right now on TV in terms of sports TV, I couldn't tell you because I don't watch a lot of it. And it's not because of a matter of taste. I know Stephen and his production company have produced a documentary about the evolution of sports talk shows. And I sat for an interview. It's one of the last things I did before I went in for surgery last summer. I'm looking forward to taking a look at it. And look, it's no secret that, what you're seeing now around you on various platforms in sports, in the quote unquote debate shows, has been going on for several decades. And the reason, especially in television, it is economical to produce. Opinions don't have rights fees. Screaming and yelling, if it comes down to that, they really shouldn't. It doesn't have any rights fees associated with it. So it's economical, and that's by far the most important thing in any part of this industry now, is keeping an eye on costs, because the only two words are running the economy in sports right now, and it's called stock price. For Disney, for Warner Brothers Discovery, everybody, we're waiting to see what happens with the NBA rights, stock price, valuations, things like that. So, having said that, debate shows are what they are. From the beginning, when I got into the business, when we started back in '79. One of the best pieces of advice I was given by Chet Simmons, the original president of ESPN, who had been the president of NBC Sports. And he said to me, I remember, and this before we even signed on, it was about a week ahead of time, and I happened to be on campus. I had just come up to find a place to live. I was living in Jersey. I stopped by. Chet said, come on in, we'll have a chat. And he said, what we want you to do more than anything else is talk to sports fans the way they want to be talked to. So respect their intelligence. Come at them with, and this is my embellishment now of what Chet said, come at them with informed opinion. Don't just say, the sky is purple. Give me 5 reasons why the sky is purple. Tell me why the Mets aren't going to come back before my hair. just don't sit there, put your hands on your hips, and go and try and pin the VU meter and make it loud. The best sports discussions do that. There are others that don't. Taste is in the eye of the beholder. And there's some things I see on the air these days that I happen to flip on the set the other day. I'm not going to name the show. I don't want to get involved in a discussion, but I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was hearing and watching. Like, really, adults are talking like this, and the network is airing it. So, it's still
Bob,
there.
that's what I respect about you. You're old school, and you gave it just like it was. So,
well, yeah, but I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, all of these shows are competing in the space, linear networks, online platforms, trying to break through on phones, YouTube TV. They need clicks. And so are you producing clickbaits? Are you producing for accuracy? Because your continued employment, is determined by clickbaits. Are people watching?
And hopefully they'll be watching, because we want clickbaits, because legendary Bob Ley is here joining us. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. We have a lot of fun coming up in the next segment, so stick with us. You're watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens on your home TV on Roku. Hi, everybody. Dave Stevens here for the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show from Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Rays. And you know what? Not everybody can be a Major League Baseball player, but you can look like $1 million. What's the best way to do that? Well, go to freshcleanthreads.com. Don't believe me? That's right. You can look professional, feel good, and not spend a lot of money by wearing Fresh Clean Threads. They have amazing shirts. They've got Henleys and polos, long sleeves, and even bomber jackets. And if you like them, you can save some money by typing in the show code GSS Show from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show to save 20% off. So if you can't be a major leaguer and you want to dress like one, well, go to freshcleanthreads.com. That's freshcleanthreads.com. Tell them Dave sent you. Use that code GSS Show. Hi, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. And Troy and I are on the road all the time, covering games, doing things, my motivational speaking. But I have connected with LifeWave, which has really changed my life. And it's an amazing patch that not only helps me to live my life, it keeps me very active. Tammy Wellman is joining me. And now, Tammy, you put these patches on me. It is a stem cell regeneration plan. But tell us a little bit more how it works.
Yeah, so these patches are amazing. They're wearable wellness. They're non-transdermal patches. Nothing goes in your body. Your body gives off light. They capture it, and they activate your body's own repair system. Your body goes to work to heal things that are in need of healing. Pain reduction, things like that.
It gave me an opportunity to play in the Celebrity Softball Classic. This video of my base hit, I wouldn't have done it without these patches. So please, if you want to know more about this product, go to patchit.life. LifeWave, it's changing my life.
Oh, welcome back. We're joined by legendary ESPN reporter Bob Ley. Bob, you've been involved in some of the great iconic SportsCenter commercials over the years, and we got some clips of a few right now.
All right.
Everybody in sports tries different promotions. We thought we'd try Old Timers Day.
A lot of basketball, but first the Rams go for a championship. I can't see it. I can't. Can you see that? Honest Wagner worked for peanuts. Literally worked for peanuts.
Hi, I'm Bob Ley, and for the past 16 years, I've been part of something very special here at ESPN called SportsCenter. Yes, SportsCenter is a sports news and information show, but to those of us who actually work here, it's something much, much more. Over the next several months, to take a long, hard look at the SportsCenter you've never seen before. A behind-the-scenes exclusive you are sure to enjoy.
The sweet science. Bring it on.
Come on, Charlie. Let's go out.
Lose the glasses. Come on.
Body sometimes you go up to. I mean, I like boxing, but it doesn't define who I am.
We can't step over the line between covering a story and possibly becoming part of the story. Like the Jim Harbaugh story. We might have gone over the line there.
Jim Harbaugh's surgery is well underway and appears to be going quite smoothly. Let's get an update. Keith, how's he faring?
Very satisfactory demo.
We've drafted kids right out of high school. We had this one kid. You would not believe the scouting reports. Raves up and down. Can't miss.
Once again, the Indians appear to be the team to beat.
Emotionally, though, he just wasn't prepared.
Jimmy Key is attempting to come back.
Jimmy Key, what's he like, 45? I could hit him.
I mean, it's a different game in here.
Jack, did you watch the game? I mean, didn't it suck? It sucked. It is with much regret that I announced that I am leaving SportsCenter.
Bottom line, he just came out too soon. Everybody in sports
that
tries
was one of my
different promotion.
favorite to come on here.
That line, I was hoping you would include that one. That young fella, young at the time, older now, obviously, I believe was from Bristol.
Oh, I should have tried to track him down.
And I believe became an ESPN employee.
Wow.
So,
well, there is one more commercial I want to show you. I see if you can remember this one. Obscure, but still an oldie but a goodie.
Okay.
When you first get to SportsCenter as a rookie, it's a little overwhelming. All of a sudden, you've got fame, attention, money. A lot of the guys really get caught up in it.
Hey, Kenny, welcome.
It's cool. It's cool. Robert Lee's the general.
Just want to say hi. Welcome.
Bob, here's how it's
Team.
going to go down. I want these two twins on a fitness show and maybe wipe out one of the Saturday morning prepaid things. Where's the caterer anyway?
The what?
The caterer. Food?
Yeah.
Carbon?
Come on, show something good.
We'll
Nice meeting you,
see you
Bobby.
later.
Yeah, you're great on TV, Bob.
Bye.
You can be a good sportscaster. Maturity's a whole different issue.
you know, there is a great outtake from one of those other spots that showed me walking with the building in the background. We were actually walking on the shoulder of Route 229. I mean, traffic is going by. I think they had knocked it down to just one lane in each direction. So doing take after take, walking down the street. And I got this line. I got to, recite these two or three lines. And doing the lines. And right behind me, there was one car cut in front of the other. There was a fender bender. And the outtake, you hear me say, "Holy!" Right behind us. Could have been knocked into us too. Yeah.
Well, now, Kenny Mayne, did you ever slip up on the air while you guys were filming those commercials? Because Kenny Mayne joining us, he wanted to say hi to Bob. That was Kenny's favorite commercial since he was in it. Kenny Mayne joining us from his house here in Connecticut.
Right. I heard you were honoring Bob Ley. I haven't seen him in a while. He was always so great to me. He was the leader there. You'd go to him with questions. He was like your uncle. Like, how do you do this? Should I say it? No, really. Like, I leaned on Bob a great deal, especially early on when he and Charlie accepted me so well and made me feel welcome. So Dave said, "Hey, Bob is on the show. Do you want to jump in?" And here I am. By the way, I have 4% battery power, just so we know.
You haven't changed a bit. You remember the first time we met in person, I think, was at the NCAA Regionals in 91 in Seattle, I think.
I think you're right. 90, 91, somewhere. UNLV was involved, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. No, man, we didn't do a lot of shows together, but anything you did with Kenny was memorable because it was like walking through Times Square carrying nitroglycerin at any moment. Anything untoward could happen, and you would have no control over it. You know?
For a short time, we called it the Bob Ley joint. It was like there was a library look behind on the 6 o'clock Sports Center in the old days. And occasionally they'd bring the new guys like me. They'd have the main people, Bob and Charlie or Bob and Robin, whoever it was. And then the third guy was just so they could, go get water and you'd fill a couple of things. But, I meant that honestly and earnestly, how good you were to me and how you made me feel welcome there. And I could always rely on you as somebody to go to for advice. And here we are now sitting on my back porch with now 3% battery.
That's right. Listen, I think, as you well know, Kenny, those of us from that time and place, 80s into the 90s, it was a golden age. It was a time that will never be replicated. They can't take the memories from us, even though they can try and take the Emmy statues, I guess, but they can't take the memories from us. And by the way, there has not been an Emmy rating party at my house like hers, because I have staff out putting landmines down. But you know that we all, if I were to run into you in an airport, we would pick up like we had just.
Absolutely. It's so funny. Everybody talks about that age, and it's very true because things were different. People didn't have the results on their phone, and you had to watch the 11 o'clock or the 6 or whatever it was to get the information. It was unknown to anybody except for the people in that town. So that was a key difference. I also think because there was no internet, we were still doing the exact same thing as they do now. but with a little bit of dated. We had the Bergen Record or something. You had the Gil Parmalee pack of information.
We had a
God
rack
bless
of
the Gil.
newspapers back in the early days. Like when I worked at a newspaper newsroom when I was in college. I mean, it was hanging on racks.
Yeah.
7 days of the Boston Globe. Go back and get the pitching matchups.
Oh, in my first job in Seattle, you'd go to the AP Wire, and if it was Bingen, that meant it was urgent. It was something national news, and I think people who grew up in that era and came into this business in that era, and I'm saying the new people aren't any good, but there was definitely something different. You really were getting kind of the nuts and bolts of how this stuff is supposed to work, and then it got more modern. And now, we do the fixes, when they make a mistake in a show. We do them in commercials now, or they do in commercials now. When before you had to stay with 2-inch tape and find that little edit point. It's a different game.
I just hope, and I know you share this hope with me, Kenny, that the people doing those jobs now, seated in those chairs, are having as much fun as we did. It's a hell of a responsibility. Which is always the most important thing to me, getting the facts right before we had the fun. I know and for all the fun you brought to it, you always had your facts right. I just hope everybody in 2024 is having the same sort of fun and enjoyment, because the Lord, man, you had to have fun. You spent more time with your coworkers than you did with your families.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What percent are you at, Kenny, before I ask you if you want another question or not?
2.5. You just go until I burn out, just like I flame out. Yeah. I mean, also I broke my phone today, so that's a problem. I got to go to Apple tomorrow and get a new one. It was gonna melt down. I think they're self-destructing anyway, right? They go bad after 2.5 years.
Ask Tom Brady.
Well, Kenny, I always thought, because it was such a unique newsroom, that here was Bob Ley, who was this incredible journalist, and here came Kenny Mayne, who was like Groucho Marx and Howard Cosell all in one. I mean, two different types of styles, yet Bob always was there as a sounding board, because Bob has an incredible sense of humor. I don't think people realize how funny Bob can be. Bob's not like the Steiner kind, but Bob really does have a sense of humor, and I know he appreciated what you did.
No, absolutely. Bob has a great wit. He, in general, and not to use the term, he would do it fairly straight, where I did it less straight, I guess is the best way to put it. But no, I grew up, journalism was in my blood. I wanted to be a more serious reporter. At UNLV, which we actually did have a broadcasting and a journalism school, and that's where I was directed. It just happened that I ended up doing sports, and I started out doing kind of more typical straight stories. Then I found out you could completely screw around and make up stories. That became easier. The edit was much easier if you tell the people what to say. And the commercials, which you showed. So I ended up kind of doing both. Like, if there was a serious story, I took it seriously. If it wasn't serious, I didn't take it seriously.
Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully people... the man who invented fake news, right here.
There you have it. Well, I know Kenny's probably at 1%, so we don't want to have you drop off anyway. But thanks for popping in, Kenny.
God bless you. It's so good to see you.
I was out your way. I played golf in Harwinton, Connecticut today. I think that's in your neighborhood.
No, we're long out of that area.
Wait a minute. Where are you?
We live elsewhere in the Northeast, and also.
What's your address?
Cell phone number.
I'll be happy to give you that.
All right.
You got my phone number, right? Reach out. I'll give you.
I'll make sure I'll send it to you right after this. So,
and then I'll put it on the internet. All right. Thank you.
All right, Kenny. Thanks for joining us.
Be well.
Thanks, Kenny.
All right.
Hey, thanks for that. That was great.
This is your life. Bob Ley continues. Bob, yeah, I just just remember that newsroom and just so many times that you and I would just have wonderful, deep conversations, not sports related. If it was girlfriend related or wife related or just politics or anything, music. I mean, you were such a good friend. Like, you don't always get that in television because everybody's just fake. Let's get on the air. But I just remember our time so many times together, just those old memories from the newsroom of you and I.
Well, listen, that's very generous of you. But I think a lot of people felt that we were all in this together. It was a team effort. You guys working there on the assignment desk. I mean, we're nothing without whatever news and feeds and contacts that you guys can arrange. This is before people are carrying a smartphone around and a TV studio in your pocket. You go back 25 years. No, it was a much more difficult medium to negotiate, and guys like you made it happen. I mean, I would sit next to our pod at Outside the Lines, and there we are gravely dealing with the most serious issues of the day. We're right next to Sports Nation. Me and Michelle Beadle are cracking wise. You could have sold tickets to that. Who's Lee? Lee and Beadle? What the hell are they talking about? We had a great time. We became great friends.
Well, I appreciate that, and we appreciate having you on, and we're going to go one more time, play some commercials, come back, and we're going to talk some hard news because Bob has been a part of some amazing historical events that he didn't intend to be part of, but he was. So you're watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens. We got, I'd say another 10 minutes or so, so please don't go away. Hi, everybody. Dave Stevens here for the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show from Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Rays. And you know what? Not everybody can be a Major League Baseball player, but you can look like $1 million. What's the best way to do that? Well, go to freshcleanthreads.com. Don't believe me? That's right. You can look professional, feel good, and not spend a lot of money by wearing Fresh Clean Threads. They have amazing shirts. They've got Henleys and polos, long sleeves, and even bomber jackets. And if you like them, you can save some money by typing in the show code GSS Show from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show to save 20% off. So if you can't be a major leaguer and you want to dress like one, well, go to freshcleanthreads.com. That's freshcleanthreads.com. Tell them Dave sent you. Use that code GSS Show. Hi, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. And, Troy and I are on the road all the time covering games, doing things, my motivational speaking. But I have connected with LifeWave, which has really changed my life. And it's an amazing patch that not only helps me to live my life, it keeps me very active. Tammy Wellman is joining me. And now, Tammy, you put these patches on me. It is a stem cell regeneration plan. But tell us a little bit more how it works.
Yeah, so these patches are amazing. They're wearable wellness. They're non-transdermal patches. Nothing goes in your body. Your body gives off light. They capture it, and they activate your body's own repair system. Your body goes to work to heal things that are in need of healing. Pain reduction, things like that.
It gave me an opportunity to play in the Celebrity Softball Classic. This video of my base hit, I wouldn't have done it without these patches. So please, if you want to know more about this product, go to patchit.life. LifeWave, it's changing my life. And we hope we are changing your lives as you take a look in the big box there. Bob Ley is joining us, a legendary broadcaster who I think we still miss. Bob, I don't know if you've got a book in you or a movie or anything, that you've been thinking about over the years.
A book sounds suspiciously like work.
Well, your non-disclosure should have expired by now, right?
Yeah. I do a lot of work with at the Seton Hall Center for Sports Media, which I founded several years ago, and I see a lot of people. That topic has come up often, the idea of writing a book. So I haven't dismissed it. Not that I ever dismissed it at all, but busy, getting that organization up and running and doing a lot of other stuff. Plus, I'm a grandpa 4 times over. That keeps me busy.
Bob, you've been involved in some of the national news over the years, with just outside the lines, but some tragedies too. 9/11 Boston Marathon. Just talk about the decision to go on air after, especially 9/11, how difficult that was to make, and also covering the Boston Marathon. Bob.
Yeah. Okay. That was your footage that was cycling in. Well, you gotta, when you start talking about 9/11, you got to realize it was, do the math, guys, 23 years ago, right? And so people of a certain age, it's as relevant to them if you're a youngster as Pearl Harbor was to us. You need to be a student of history. Those of us old enough to have lived through that, especially in the Northeast, we recognize how traumatic it was. But that happened early in the morning, about 9 o'clock. By 10:30 or 11, both towers had fallen. The estimates of deaths initially were well into 5 figures. Thank God it was not quite that bad, but it was obviously horrible. ABC News had been what ESPN was starting to carry early in the once the towers were hit. ESPN began rebroadcasting the ABC News signal, deciding to get out of the way and let news be covered that way. Then I drove into work. I was initially off that day, and I will, to the day I pass, remember the discussions, and I think they were in Vince Doria's office, about what should we do? Do we have a place here? We're a sports network. And everybody had an opinion. I think I succeeded in respecting all the opinions offered in the room. I was of the opinion that, as horrible as this was, there needs to be a history kept of what happened in and around sports, as tangential as it was to this incredibly horrific story. And that maybe no one's going to see it, but we'll have it up on the shelf. A little bit of my thinking was, this is a horrible thing here we've got going on. Giving us all a show to do will kind of keep our minds off it. But the principal thinking was to establish a record. And eventually that's what the decision was. But a lot of very sincere people who I love and cherish were on the other side of that question that day. And I totally understood. What are you going on the air doing? You're a sports network. This has nothing really to do with sports. But we did a show, and you saw pieces of it. One of the most emotional things I've ever experienced was on I took a personal visit. I was seeing some friends downtown 3 or 4 years ago. And I went to the 9/11 Museum. And I don't know if you guys have been there. I heartily encourage you to go. And I knew that there was an exhibit up that centered around the fact that we had covered events of that day and how sports was reflected through the tragedy of 9/11, including the George Bush first pitch at Yankee Stadium and whatnot. And if you walked into this special exhibit, it's not a permanent exhibit. You won't see it if you go today. It's no longer there. You go into the room, and there is a kiosk with a monitor is in it, and on an endless loop of the first 2 or 3 minutes of the show that Trey Wingo and I did that day. Incredibly powerful. And then I said, I wonder if people are giving a damn about this. And I stepped back into the shadows and just, kind of looking at the other portions of the exhibit. But everyone who came into that room stood in front of that kiosk to absorb that show for the length of the clip. And you cannot believe how emotional it was to watch that. That was wild.
It's one of the few things I remember that morning, walking in, talking to News One. They said a little plane crashed into the building, and then we all saw the second one, and we knew the world was going to change that day. And we were the only ones. We were the voice at that time, just much like you were for the World Series in 1989 when that took place. I mean, you have had good luck at being around bad luck. I mean, what was that World Series experience like?
Well,
you were the only one on air because ABC was off the air. Nobody could have a signal. And then you were out there giving the information to everyone.
Well, the reason, again, for those of you who don't remember, prior to Game 3 of the 1989 World Series between the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants, the Bay Series being played at Candlestick Park at 5:04, about 15 minutes before the game started, a 7.1 earthquake swept through the Bay Area and down all the way to Santa Cruz. So it turned out 66 people died, many of them dying in Oakland when the 880 freeway pancaked. Power was out, absolute horrible tragedy and disaster for San Francisco, especially the Marina District. We were able to get on the air and stay on the air because we were on a generator for power. We did not plug in to San Francisco utility power, so we're way out behind center field. ABC had no such arrangement. We weren't yet an actual rights holder, so that's why we were able to get on the air in 18 minutes and describe. And, Joe Torre was working with us. Chris Berman was there. He'll tell you. All of us just trying to tell the country what we knew, what we could see and feel and relate and report from Candlestick Park, what we were able to glean from local media. We had 2 phone lines in our remote truck. We gave one to the San Francisco Police Department because they had no communication. And for the longest time, we were the only live national voice and picture out of this disaster zone. Those are tapes I don't watch because I I get I was 4 rows from the top of the stadium when the earthquake hit. It was like trying to stand on a waterbed, and you're standing on concrete, and you're, dozens of yards in the air. And some people ask me, how long did it last? And I tell them it started long enough to think to start a Hail Mary, but not long enough to finish it. It was not, 15 or 20 seconds. So, as I said, nearly 70 people died. So that's, and I get uneasy when I watch that, if I stumble on it, if it's on a compendium or whatever. So I'm so proud, so dreadfully proud of all the people I was there with that day for ESPN, who, this is before the age of cell phones, and we didn't have walkie-talkies at the time. Everybody knew wherever they were at Candlestick Park immediately after the color came back to your face and it ended, that holy crap, we had a job to do. And they all assembled on their own, and it was magnificent. It was their finest hour. It really was.
Well, you've had a lot of fine hours, and now we can lighten things up. Let's take you back a little to your original days on SportsCenter when we barely had any highlights, but you were always full of energy.
As the Braves have struck for 6 runs in their half of the third. Giants in Houston in the bottom of the first inning. Giants have a 1-0 lead. LaPointe and Kerfield are the pitchers in that game.
Great graphics in those
Developments
days.
Today in the Pittsburgh federal cocaine trial. John Milner, former first baseman for both the Mets and the Pirates, testified that while playing for the Mets, he took a bottle of liquid amphetamine solution out of the locker of Hall of Famer Willie Mays. Also today, Dave Parker testifying, and he's the second man to do so, that both Bill Madlock and Willie Stargell distributed amphetamines while they were playing all together with the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll check the American League, then move along to the motocross action after this word from Benjamin Moore.
Imagine nowadays if you had those stories were broke, they would have been all over the world, but we kind of did it, and that was kind of it.
I think you might have been looking at an update, not an actual SportsCenter show when you're just doing headlines. By the way, there was no such thing as teleprompters. Kenny Mayne had one of the great lines ever when in the middle of a show that was melting down, going down without an oil slick. It's a mess all over. Mistakes to the left of you, mistakes to the right of you, and the wrong copy coming up in the teleprompter. Kenny looked square into the camera and said, the pioneers didn't have teleprompters and they got through it okay. That dry martini wit of his. We didn't have teleprompters for the first 6 years. And, that made you a better broadcaster. And when we had teleprompters, you're able to write for yourself. And that was the best part of my job that I enjoyed more than anything. Was the writing, the expression, because especially if you took the time to craft something well, because words mean things, something that people in public life should remember, you're able to deliver it that same way.
I heard you're a big Bruce Springsteen fan. Tell us why you are, and how many concerts have you been over the years?
Oh, geez. Why? I'm from Jersey. My first date with my wife was Animal House. 2 weeks later, our second date was Springsteen at the Capitol at the State, 1978. You don't grow up. I met my wife at the Jersey Shore. How can I, not be? And she turned me on to Springsteen. We probably are closing in on 70 or 80 shows. We saw him in Albany months ago. Yeah, we've done some pretty silly things, like seeing him in Boston on a Friday night, and then driving down to see him in Philly on Sunday night and back that night. And they did not take our kids away from us. I think the statute of limitations has run out. We've seen them all sorts of different places. Yeah.
Well, Bob, I got to be friends with my favorite group, the Village People, and we don't have to talk about that. But have you ever had a personal moment with Bruce? I mean, all these times and all the ways you guys, your paths might have crossed?
No, the house, one of the houses that we had in Connecticut, I wanted to have a plaque put up because I was doing a photo shoot, a video shoot with somebody, a freelance thing, and the audio guy on the shoot, it was actually Kurt Rahm, who's one of the trumpeters in the Bruce's current show, trumpet players. And I'm also buddies with Jeff Kazee, who is the keyboardist and musical director of Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And they've each been in our home, and they each utilize the guest half bath, and I wanted to put a plaque up that say, in this bathroom, members of the E Street Band and Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes have each availed themselves. Never met Bruce. I've been in venues close to him, but you want to give the guy his space. But we were a big Jukes fan, and with 2-3 summers ago, Bruce showed up at a Jukes summer concert at the Stone Pony and played 7 or 8 songs for the better part of an hour. That was neat.
Out of all the stories you investigated on Outside the Lines, which one has the most impact, or you remember the most?
Wow. Picking 1 or 2 or 3 would be tough. I'd known, and you're always, it's the myopia of history. You're always able to see the stuff that's closest. The latter part of my career, I think that the Larry Nassar story, not that we were unique, but we were unique at the time in getting to it early. John Barr and his team and their reporting was great. The time we devoted to it, the shows we did in and around it, I thought were great. The works we did in the areas of concussion, National Football League, there are policies there, which that's been told and retold. Areas like that, the coaches who we did, I mentioned the Larry Nassar. We've done several different chapters of work in that particular area that you realize it's not a sports story. This is a human story, and it's a public health hazard. The suasion, the power that coaches have over our youngsters. And so it's up to all of us to, do background checks and to keep an eye on what's happening.
Well, you made a lot of impact in Outside the Lines and so many awards, multiple Emmys for your work as a journalist. But you always had a scarlet letter that you had to wear because you love soccer. And I remember in those meetings when you would pitch it and say, look, this is the sport of the future in the United States. It's going to grow.
Since the 70s.
Right. But they didn't want to send you. You always had to battle for time and everything. But where did that love? I know you started out with the Cosmos kind of and doing your thing then when you were very early. But where's that love come from?
Comes from New Jersey. When you grow up in Jersey, great hotbeds of soccer. I grew up, 1971 season. I was the manager for our high school soccer team in Bloomfield. And you're a 3-wood there from Giant Stadium, and the Cosmos hadn't come into existence yet. But when I started working in local cable in North Jersey, started doing play-by-play there, became the public address announcer for the 79 season for the Cosmos, did NASL matches when I went to ESPN, was fortunate to be involved in so many World Cups. I have seen the world on somebody else's dime thanks to football. Futebol in Portuguese. South Africa, I spent 3 months there, all throughout Europe, South America, and the memories of great events and people and what this game means to people. And I will tell you quite frankly, one of the biggest disappointments of my life was the day when Sepp Blatter, the corrupt head of FIFA, opened the envelope and the World Cup was awarded in 2018 to Russia, and then Qatar in 2022. And then ESPN was, if you can believe some accounts, through matters nefarious and otherwise, nudged out of the rights situation. Because if we maintain, we've been doing the World Cup 2006, 2010, 2014. 2010's World Cup coverage in South Africa set the bar where I think everybody who has the rights to a World Cup, if they can hit that, they're doing the best, because we made a commitment to that World Cup that I think you'll never see a sporting platform, network, whatever, make, because of the times are different. We had the money to spend, and what we did in South Africa, telling the story of that nation. Remember, at that point, only 20 years removed from the end of white minority rule. It's more than just a sporting event. It's a cultural event. It's a celebration of a country. But if we had maintained the rights, I would have found a reason and a way to stick around, but we didn't. So we move on.
Do you think any of what you said about the president, and I know you were very vocal about that, do you think that could have played in the decision to kick ESPN out?
No. No. Hold
Because
on.
you just brought it to everybody's attention, you know?
Hold on. This determines how the world works at FIFA, okay?
Money.
There's a tenor for you, as the Brits would call it, okay? By the
Well,
way, the old
Go ahead.
fart carries around a money clip, but I also have an Amex card. The only money talks and you know what walks.
Well, speaking of money talks, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick as we end the show on the ruling for the NCAA, and now that basically they're paid professional athletes along the way and can get compensated. And I don't know if that just screams for a scandal with the most money, or I mean, I just wonder what your thought if this changes college sports forever.
Well, it already has been changed forever by NIL. Whether it's NIL, whether it's an antitrust settlement like this, which is only good until the next antitrust suit is filed. So who knows, right? All I can say is be careful what you wish for. We got what we want, what people have been agitating for. And I don't say that in a pejorative sense because the athletes are the product. The coaches are not the product, even though they try to position in terms of stature and contracts that they're not the product. So NIL started the money tap, turned on the money flow for athletes. But, there are conferences, many conferences and many schools who are outside the power structure for whom having to be in a position to start, distributing funds like that is going to be grievously difficult for some schools.
Well, how will Seton Hall? How can they compete?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody there yet. We don't have football, but it's a challenge. NIL was a challenge. If you do not have a substantial, wealthy under NIL, which apparently will be adapted or transmogrified into this system, you need a wealthy alumni fan base, and not every school is gifted that way. But something had to change, and it's changed. But once again, be careful what you wish for. All right, now you got to make this work.
Well, I was wishing to have you on our show, and I'm so glad we did. Before we let you go, Bob, just off the top of your head, what obscure, I don't care, is it an interview with John McCain? Like, what is one of those amazing moments that you just never thought as a journalist you would ever have in your entire life?
I'll tell you, it was designed to impress me, and it did. We were doing a show back in 1992 on sports and the presidency, and we wanted to interview the two people running for president, Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas and President George H.W. Bush running for re-election. So I called my contact, the Texas Rangers, a guy by the name of George W. Bush, who I'd met through a couple of stories and covering the strike and whatnot. He says, let me call up there, see what I can arrange. And phone rings at my desk about a week later. It's Marlin Fitzwater, the White House press secretary, says, be at Andrews Air Force Base on Sunday. You interview the president on Air Force One. It was the night after the Toronto Blue Jays won the 1992 World Series. They were hoping to have President Bush call Cito Gaston while we were there, but they couldn't find Cito. So we sat in the conference room of Air Force One in flight from Bethesda to Detroit, and I interviewed George Bush. I've interviewed him subsequent to that several other times. In fact, at the Superdome being reopened in New Orleans. But flying on Air Force One, interviewing the president in flight is no small thing, and that was pretty neat.
How was the food?
It was pretty good. I don't remember, but they all your cutlery and your cups are hardcore plastic because they know everyone's taking everything as a souvenir. You'll have a little coffee cup with the presidential seal embossed on it. It's pretty neat. Hey, it's our airplane and our accoutrement on the plane. We paid for it with our money. That's when that plane was brand new. Now they're talking about replacing it. That's how long ago that was, over 30 years.
As long as it's not a Boeing plane, I think they'll be okay. So.
Oh boy, don't get me started.
Well, Bob, it has been a wonder night for us to have you here. We could go on for hours, so I'm just so thankful for you.
I tell you, when I see you on Facebook, David, and I see what you're doing and the message you carry, and the example that you set for all people, just living your life, the example you set, it's ennobling. So don't stop, buddy. You mean a lot to a lot of people.
Well, thank you, and you've led by quite an example, especially that kid right there wearing your what was that real estate coat that they put you guys in? It looks like kind of like a Hall of Fame.
I was in the $1 Million Club that week. Yeah.
All right, Bob. Best of luck to you. Say hello to your wife, and thank you for sharing everything, insights, and especially kicking cancer, man. It is so. We've seen so many of our friends, Dickie V. You know, we continue to lose people. You know, recently Barry Sachs, Howie Schwab. I mean, so it's great when we can get together like this and just reminisce about when we were in the heyday. But more importantly, the importance that you played as a journalist at ESPN.
Last message on cancer: get every test you can, folks. Pay attention to your body. Don't be shy about going to the doctor.
All right, Troy.
Yeah, Bob, I really appreciate you taking time out of your night to join us. It was a treat.
Great to see you guys. Absolutely. And I was warned that only 2 of the 3 hosts would be here.
Yeah, we don't know where Will ever is. You know, I don't know. Troy?
Yeah, he's probably doing something Vikings related.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Troy, for Bob Ley, and myself, this is Dave Stevens. Again, thank you for your love and support. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can watch us on Roku, YouTube, LinkedIn, and of course on yourhometv.com or on Roku. If you download the Your Home TV app, you can watch us and watch this show over and over and over again. So for Troy, Bob, and myself, Dave Stevens, that's a wrap. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Gary, Stan, and Stevens Show. Follow us on social media. Watch us on yourhometv.com, or now we're on Roku. Download it and watch us. And thanks for tuning in. Until next time, America.